As of 2022, only 22% of artists on Spotify have more than 50 monthly listeners. While some artists and bands of the remaining 78% push forward and keep going, others seem to disappear. You might have heard a story similar to this before. Now, sometimes different things can happen to these artists or bands. A lot of the time, a small group might have just disbanded, or someone releasing music as a hobby just quit music. It's an extremely common possibility in today's music industry, but sometimes the answer is a little more complex. Or it's a total mystery. For example, although this was before streaming services had exploded in popularity, and although this is a well-known story, many of you might have heard the tale of Death Metal by Panchiko. Death Metal was a demo CD found in a thrift store in the UK around 2016. The songs were harshly affected by disc rot when a CD starts chemically decaying, destroying the sound quality. After finding it, a 4chan user posted about it, prompting an internet-wide search for its origin. In the end, they found the band members and messaged one online asking if he was the one who had made the CD. He replied that he had, and the band had just disbanded after and forgotten about it. Honestly, in the end, there wasn't some super cool big reveal behind it. It was just some friends making music, selling a few copies, and forgetting about it. But listening to the album is such a cool experience, knowing it could have been lost to time and wondering what other mysteries are out there to solve. Although in the modern day Spotify doesn't have thrift stores or disc rot, it does have a near infinite amount of music. Remember, like I said, 78% of Spotify artist accounts have less than 50 monthly listeners. If you do the math, that is nearly 6.3 million artist accounts that have practically no listeners that practically no one has heard of. Sure, some of these are dead ends. People who made a crap song and vanished, someone uploading their bad song cover and forgetting, or some archive of a historical composer. What I'm interested though is the true missing musicians, the ones that created something cool and disappeared. Wouldn't you want to chase that feeling of listening to something less than a few hundred people have ever heard? If you've made it this far already, I bet you do. Welcome to the first installment in a new series I'm calling Lost Artists. If we want to get into exactly what makes a lost artist, how to find new ones, or anything like that, I'll talk more about the framework of it closer to the end of the video. For now, I'd like to lead by example and tell the story of our first lost artist and the path they led me down. I've been subtly forcing my Spotify algorithm to show me small artists, the most obscure deep cuts from the corners of their servers. It's crazy how easy it is to bypass Spotify from showing you only the big names. Just start by playing a few songs and saving a few albums or playlisting some things by more obscure musicians, and it'll start throwing only the little guys at you. Because of this, I was scrolling through the algorithm recommended albums one day when I came across Running by Amber Isles. I can't lie, it first hooked me with its album cover. I really like the blurry, long exposure style and that greenish color. I was then interested to see that they only had 2 releases under their name. This album, released in 2016, and an EP called Habitat, released in 2018. Both soft indie rock projects with a touch of shoegaze here and there. I had to do some very interesting digging to find out the story behind this band, seeing as they didn't even have an artist bio on Spotify. Before I fully get into the investigation, let's hear about the music itself. Running by Amber Isles really helped me out on an early morning when I was super tired. It starts off really laid back, not extremely chill, but not in your face. It nicely features pianos and little synths throughout the album. It was unexpectedly lush and kind of soothed my soul. I especially liked the textures on the tracks like Maker. Quite a few of these songs are pretty long, some being around 7 minutes. That's a bit of a musical turnoff for me on specific songs, but as a whole, this album remains pretty strong. Running has an interesting mix of both lyrical and full instrumental songs. I like it a lot. Some of my favorite songs just so happen to be instrumentals, but I don't dislike the lyrics at all. They're well done, I just prefer the really pretty instrumentation on the non-lyricals. Weird effects also play a strong role in this record. Phasers are pretty common on the track On the Scene. It's got heavy cowboy running away from home vibes. I liked City Waves more than a lot of the other tracks. I love me some soft rhythmic acoustic guitars. It sounds like something that'd play in the end credits of a movie. Gyroscope was an excellent closer in my opinion. It sounds reminiscent of some shoegaze and synthgaze bands I've heard, with a really melancholy yet hopeful isolated lead guitar. Overall, I'd give the album a high 7. Pretty high highs and pretty alright lows. Okay, this is the part where it gets interesting. As I said before the review, Amber Isles has no Spotify bio. That's fine. Sometimes when artists don't have one of those, they still have a social media link or two that I can use. Nope, also non-existent. So I had to do something totally and extremely unprecedented that required a lot of effort. I searched the album on Google. Exhilarating, huh? This immediately led me to their Bandcamp, which is a great path to take in a search like this. Here, artists are able to give a description of their works when they sell them, so I was able to learn more about them and the album. First, the album was made entirely DIY in Belgium. Second, they gave a little synopsis. I'll read it out. Running is a 10-track catalog of episodes following a blind move to Australia. From an act of pure escapism flowing in uneasy euphoria, the album unfolds and morphs into scenes that are inevitably grounded, interconnected, and real. The duality of both states and the transit from one to the other are reflected as side A runs into side B. So this Bandcamp page is pretty valuable then. We have their thoughts on the project and what it means, as well as the fact that their artist page shows that they're from Melbourne, Australia. And best of all, they have a Facebook link and a link to their own website. We'll get into what I found on their socials in a second, but first I want to talk about their site. AmberIsles.com is an unreachable site. The link is invalid, and Google fires an error when you try to visit it. If you've seen any lost media content on YouTube though, you know where we take this, the Wayback Machine. From here, we can find several old recreations or mirrors of the way the site looked at different points in time, thanks to the auto-scanning bots called web crawlers. The Amber Isles website gave me a lot of info, to say the least. The most recent archived version of their site is from November 2021. It advertises the release of that 2018 Habitat EP I mentioned. At the bottom, we can see that they simply go by @AmberIsles on socials, which will be useful for later. They have a section that leads to their Bands in Town page for touring, with supposedly no tours since 2018. There's a section for their lyrics, but it sadly only has Habitat's lyrics, and there's a link to their Bandcamp page for merch. The most interesting, though, is the link titled Bio. It's a pretty lengthy story written by someone I assume to be a former band member, Tim Shu, on how the band got its start. At the top, it lists the 5 main members: Max Fotheringham, Adam Heath, Penny Bohan, Alex Cooper, and Mick Petter. I won't read the whole story because it is pretty long, but here are the cool parts.
A friend and I were in our own conversation bubble when that bubble burst, broken by a busker. He was up against the narrow tunnel walls, a maroon guitar in front of him with no fixed audience. A cardboard sign in black pen read, "Looking for bandmates." I walked on, but kept listening from a distance as the image of the sign faded into the background noise. I turned around and walked back against the flow of pedestrians to the busker with the maroon guitar. Playing the streets of Melbourne, it was inevitable that the band would encounter Alex Cooper, a busking veteran and drummer for hire. 4 years have passed since. Amber Isles is a group brought together by the working arteries of this city. It's an ongoing invitation to anyone who has the privilege to stop and listen, a magnetic atmosphere appealing to anyone who might break the shell of compressed mainstream and discover an unbeknownst desire for craft music.
I seriously cut a lot out of that. It's quite lengthy, like I said. But this is so cool, isn't it? There was a whole story buried behind that random Spotify recommendation that I never would have known about if not for the algorithm and the Wayback Machine. This page has stayed pretty much the same throughout its lifetime, so now there's not much to do except move on to their socials. And that doesn't give us much more info. They did some touring around 2018 and 2019, did some local shows covering popular songs, but they haven't posted anything on their Instagram since May 2019. So, is this it? Do we call this a dead end and call Amber Isles solved? We certainly could, but before I really call it quits, I want to look for each member's socials first. Max doesn't have anything that I can immediately see. Adam has a Sound Better page and has apparently played guitar per commission on quite a few projects. Penny seems to be in some new bands, some of which I might have to check out. Alex, the fabled street guitarist, is pretty regularly active and is in some new music projects as well. And Mick doesn't seem to have much of an online presence. So there you have it. It seems like the band has gradually dissolved and gone their separate ways in music, continuing the Amber Isles legacy in new spaces. I'm so glad I was able to find this album and uncover more of the band's semi-secret history. It's a great piece that's definitely entered my regular rotation, and I'd strongly recommend that any indie rock or shoegaze dream pop fans give it a try. To clarify for future videos in this series, I think I'm going to set the bar for a lost artist as an artist or band that fits 3 criteria. 1. They have not released anything on streaming platforms in more than 3 years. 2. They have a limited, linkable social presence, like how I had to scavenge for Amber Isles' socials and it wasn't really available on their Spotify. 3. They have under 100,000 monthly listeners. If you find any holes in those criteria, let me know in the comments. I came up with them in a couple minutes. And if you know of any artists that you think would be fun to research like this and do a whole deep dive mystery solving with them, leave a comment or join our Discord. Our goal as a channel is to share as many small artists with the public as we can by making music review and analysis videos just like this. You can support our mission by interacting here on YouTube, and if you're a small artist yourself, you can fill out the Google form on our homepage. Finding lost artists is like hunting for buried treasure. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, keep exploring new sounds. Thanks for watching.